Oh, yeah.
We'll call the, what is April Water and Wastewater Utility Commission meeting order. Start out with roll call.
Alderpersons Bob Smith,
Here.
Alderpersons Roger Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Pasprick.
Here.
Commissioner Frings,
Here.
Commissioner Lodall,
Here.
Commissioner Bushy.
Here. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? With that, we'll move on to approve the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from March 7th and both the water and wastewater bills. So we'll take a motion in a second and we'll have discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
second by Mr. Prosper. Any questions? Seeing no questions, we will take roll call on that.
Alderpersons Bob Smith,
Aye.
Alderpersons Roger Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Engel,
Aye.
Commissioner Pasprick,
Aye.
Commissioner Frings,
Aye.
Commissioner Lodall,
Aye.
Commissioner Bushy.
Aye. Next is the discussion of possible action regarding compensation for sewer laterals on Green Bay Drive prior to repairs completed by Speedy Clean Incorporated in February of 2023. So this was brought up at last month's meeting. It would be repairs that were made before we knew there was a problem.
That's what that gentleman was here for, right?
Yep,
Correct.
we said we put it on.
Is he here today?
No,
How much is he looking for?
I think it was just a general question if we were willing to do reimbursement for multiple people. You know, there's multiple people that had repairs happen in the last 15 years, to my knowledge, 15, 20 years.
2, 3, at least 3, possibly 4 that I don't.
In the past 15 years?
Yeah.
Do we know,
Correct.
do we know what caused them all?
Assuming it's the same thing.
I think you can only assume it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's so
only
many.
assume.
There's the same break in the same area.
Couple of them were apartment house or, condos on the east side of the street on the curve. Right, how you gonna deal with that? Deal with the landlord or what?
I don't know if those were repaired, my guy.
Well, there was one of them was, I know at my time there.
Well, before my time, maybe, yeah.
What year did you live there?
Sorry, 14.
Oh, I remember that.
The question is,
We paid for how many?
10.
10 of them? And there was at least 4 of them that were done prior to that.
I would say if we are satisfied that they weren't caused by some of the things that Alderman Smith discussed when we talked about this before, things like toys getting stuffed in and that sort of stuff. If it was for the same reason, we can be confident that that's what it was, then I would say that we ought to consider reimbursing them for the average of what it costs to have the work done in February.
Yeah, I would like to see what it actually cost them and what the cost was.
They have
for us
that
for the other.
information available yet?
Well, I guess I'm not too concerned about what it costs them, because I'm sure it cost them more if they had to dig up the street, perhaps.
So you're saying just take an average?
What did we pay with some figure of what we paid for the work that we had done?
The 10 of them that we had done.
So it's,
Never thought of it that way.
That seems like reasonable, but I would say anything that we consider doing, we should run past legal to find out if we can do it, and that remedy might be appropriate. Are there any other areas in the city that suffer from the same?
I guess that's kind of my concern. If we open it up, how many more are gonna?
Well, there is a lateral that got replaced on North Sherman Street here a couple of years ago. That would kind of fall into this.
In that category?
And I'm not the only one.
Well, it sounds like we need more, little more
Yeah,
information.
can we do it? The thing is, can we do it? And if we do, if we can, should we put a cutoff on people claiming for this? And should we put some circumstances surrounding it? And maybe, I don't know if there are any.
Well, I think we discussed that when we did this time around, that this was a one time
Mhm.
only deal, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess, I still would like to see what they did, how much they paid for it, and proof that it was done. Yeah.
I guess I'm concerned that we're opening up a can of worms. Because our city policy is pretty clear on what the city pays for and what it doesn't. I love it that everybody's heart is in the place of taking care of the citizens. I mean, my gosh, if I was in that situation, I'd certainly want that. But I am concerned that we're deviating from what our policy says. Where does it stop?
Who was formally requested this?
Anybody?
Yeah,
So
Okay,
a
last
citizen
month.
from last month.
He formally requested reimbursement?
It was on the
Yeah.
minutes that he did.
Okay.
Yeah, from,
yeah, I would
as
say,
a citizen comment.
But if we do it for this person, then somebody just brought up a little bit ago, well, where else are we gonna expand and accept this request from in other parts of the cities for other problems?
And I was really kidding, but when you think about it, there were a whole bunch of us that wound up having to replace laterals that it was questionable whether or not they really needed to be replaced under an ordinance that existed a few years ago. And so if we're gonna pay for these, then hey, that $6,000 that I paid for mine ought to be,
Well, this is a little different.
Well,
That-
what's the
Yeah.
difference?
The difference is this is a known defect. We had
Hey,
hammering
mine
done.
had no defect and I was.
Well, I know, I was opposed to the ordinance. I held a
Yeah.
town meeting to try and then I finally got rid of that ordinance,
You
but.
did, but the damage was already done.
Right,
And
this
in my
is
case-
something this is a known problem with a deep sewer that had risers that were defective. And we created the precedent by resolving the remaining, whether they're 18, 20 of them, going in there and repairing them ahead of time. So we're talking about an issue that was separate from the lateral ordinance, the silly lateral ordinance and all the other stuff. We're talking about something we recognized by going in and cammering all these people and fixing them ahead of time. Now, if we can't retroactively compensate these people, we can't. But this is separate from everything else that happened in the city for the last 20 years.
so what you're saying, Bob, though, is let's talk to legal, see if we can do it.
Specific circumstance, yeah.
That would make sense.
And it would only be for that
Discussion
space,
anymore,
and
until we
those-
get that answer.
yeah, between those two areas where the sewer was considered too deep and the risers were all off, we did something unprecedented. We did fix all of those, so we accepted some responsibility for those that are still, that were awry. And in that case, maybe there is an opening for the 3 or 4 only that were in that same geographic area that suffered the same issue. If we can find out if that's the issue they had.
What's gonna happen if one of these that we fix fail in the next 5 years?
I think we had paperwork saying, we're done. This is a one-time thing, yeah.
Is there?
And we offered them insurance on their, they buy the insurance or check with their homeowners. And how do we know the other ones did the other 4 get some homeowner,
Yeah, we don't know.
yeah.
I know
We'd have to
one
gather.
did.
Yeah, I know the one that did, yes. And, some of them may have had a deductible. Well, all I'm saying, this is an isolated circumstance, and we've already created a situation where we unfortunately accepted some kind of liability for that section of the sewer that was too deep with the inadequate risers and the gaps in the lateral that went out to them. By fixing that as a lump sum, to keep from having further problems, we did admit, we are admitting that there was a problem in that section of the sewer. And so I suppose we could investigate those 4 separate from everything else.
Well, let's,
I don't think this opens up a can of worms where we have to go
let's
fixed
first,
every lateral in the city for the last 20
let's
years.
first find out if we can do it. Yeah.
You go first.
You need a motion to table this, we'll bring it back next month.
In addition, can we do it, see what information you can get from the
The
property?
homeowners. One thing that was brought up a while back about, there was a home that had a sewer backup. And we went through multiple insurance companies. The insurance company at that time, I guess a good thing to remember going forward, and I didn't know this. There was a state statute created, to protect municipalities in those instances, so discretionary immunity. If we didn't know there was a problem and that home backed up, it doesn't go against our insurance. If we knew there was a problem and we did nothing about it, then we're at fault. So, I mean, we acted once we
Right.
knew and we could verify.
So we exempt, so
Problem.
that was prudent for us doing that. But we can also use that same logic to say, we didn't know
Yeah.
before this. So we don't, no, I agree, we don't have to, but the only ones we should consider at all, be those four within that same geographic area.
And 150 North Sherman Street.
I really don't, I think the lawyer is gonna say, I don't think you can really do this.
Do you-
Well, then our hands are tied.
Do you want information from these customers or to get a hold of these people? I mean, or do you wanna wait for legal? Because I don't wanna say, can I have all your bills?
That's true.
We might or might not, you know,
We might ask them if they make a formal application, we might invite them to, but we can ask them, did you?
No, but
Did you
before that,
apply
I
to your
think you should
insurance
ask
company?
legal,
What's that?
if the lawyer says, no, you can't do it, well.
And we're
it's
done.
a bad issue.
That's fine.
Then we send a copy of what. the
Maybe
lawyer
you
says
suggest you
back.
can, and then she's gotta reach out to lawyers and get more information.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
So do we need a motion or anything to?
Well, let's see.
No, I don't.
What's this possible action? We can,
So we will put it back on the
we should
agenda.
table it. Yeah, we should.
Table it till,
Motion to table
get
that
more
for our next
information.
meeting. Yeah.
Taking it.
So I'll make a motion to do that. Somebody's gonna second it.
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
We're good. Table that. Next on the agenda is discussion and possible action, well number 4, construction services contract with Town and Country Engineering.
So that contract is in there. Essentially, we signed the first task order for engineering services. Task order number 2 is moving on to the construction phase, so it's their effective dates, construction contract. For item E in your packets.
Does this require a payment? Usually it does. No.
No, it's, I mean, we assigned the initial ongoing contract, it's just kind of moving.
Okay, sometimes they want draws.
We're just looking
Total
for a motion.
compensation for services under this task order is estimated to be 207,000, just the total is on there, not a
Okay,
payment right now.
So you're just looking for a motion to approve
Yep,
moving forward with that.
I don't plan on making too many motions, but I'll make a motion to approve that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I gave it.
So a motion and a second to approve the Town and Country, just the contract. We'll take roll call on that.
Alderpersons Bob Smith,
Aye.
Alderpersons Roger Smith,
aye,
Commissioner Engel.
Aye.
Commissioner Patrick,
All right.
Commissioner Brings,
Aye.
Commissioner Lodell,
Aye.
Commissioner Busky.
Aye. Next on the agenda is discussion possible action regarding bids received for 2023 street utility projects, including Meadowcraft Water Main Loop Project and Alley Street reconstruction.
that was you.
With me?
Yeah, you should have a bid tab and a recommendation letter in there for.
Yeah, so we went over bid, when was that?
So you got 2 bids on there?
Yeah, I got 2 bids, it's Crew Check and Waleski Construction. Crew Check ended up being a low bidder.
As part of the main bid, base bid of that, we had alley street reconstruction with sewer and water main replacement and dead ending at the end of it. As an alternate, we have it looping to the west to
Springbrook.
Springbrook. So that's what that alternate is that you'll see in the packets there. And then for Metalcraft, we were going to loop the water main from V to their current service.
Yeah, on site at the would that be southeast corner of the
Yeah.
building about?
For Alley Street, do we have the right of way to go to Springbrook?
Yeah.
We would end up having to get a utility easement from the property owner. We have contacted him and it sounds like he was open to exploring that option.
So we'll have to go under the creek at this too?
Yeah, we'd have to go under the creek, yeah.
So Meadowcraft, you're just gonna dead end it at. So
We'd go from B to, like the southeast corner, the connection at Metalcraft would be, what we initially talked about was phase one.
Mhm.
And that keeps them in service if
Yeah.
that cement encased line under the tracks and the marsh would go. And
And
we kind of,
that's alternate two for the Metalcraft.
the Metalcraft portion is is an alternate right now. I would prefer to do the loop for Metalcraft right now and not the alternate. We're exploring some options right now with, there's some newer technologies and we have some things in the works just to talk about lining. So they don't have to tear through the marsh, through the railroad track, through the railroad bed. There's some technology out there that we could
The
use.
whole reason we were doing that is to abandon that line on the tracks, no?
It's a secondary fee. If the other one goes out, then we're in trouble too. So they would finally have a looped system.
But you're always better off with the loop, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, if that line breaks at Metalcraft right now, we're in trouble.
So the plan is to loop this with, on V by the controlled manhole there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that phase one would keep them in service even if we were to lose service off
So you're gonna go-
Main Street.
West on Slag Road and then come down to the south on V, that's the plan.
It's coming from like the
It's
semi
coming-
entrance, if that makes sense. Like
There's water main on the east side that runs up on V there and it stops at the southwest corner of the Metalcraft property there. There's a couple valves there that we're gonna tie onto the stub there and then run it east to their current service.
So yeah, all feeds would be tied in from Metalcraft then too, as they have added on a few times.
Because we only got two bidders.
I don't know. I think we had like 7 or 8 companies pull plans. I don't know. Don was gonna reach out and see what their reasoning was for not bidding, but I think we had 7, 8 that pulled plans.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Mueller, Northeast bid on everything.
Esak's been in business a while.
Ruchek, yeah.
I know Waleski's worked for us, but I don't recall Kusak ever.
Yeah, we've had other projects with Kuchek.
They've been enforcement from Leroy down.
Okay.
Do we have to pick the alternate or which one do we, at this time, do we have to decide how we're gonna move or service these Alley
I
Street and
think
the other?
to award the contract, we would need to,
Yeah.
they need to know, plan for work.
And how are we gonna know the whole thing may be dead if we can't make a deal with the landowner on Alley Street over there?
Well,
Be a
so
condition
we had reached out already and he was willing to get a utility easement, so.
Is there an easement for the sewer to go from there to Breckenridge Street or not? From Alley Street to Breckenridge? Isn't there a sewer that goes through them backyards there?
I don't think, from what we found, the mapping is kind of incorrect in that area. It's not as it appears once you actually get down there.
You're talking about sanitary?
Yeah. sanitary.
It's currently under the creek. The portion under the creek through Alley. So the northern portion of Alley Street where the creek divides it, that was already reconstructed, I think like 7 or 8 years ago. And then the southern portion wasn't touched. So there is a portion of sewer that's under that creek, and what we came up with to do with that to complete that construction was to line that portion under the creek so that we don't.
So are you gonna, is the plan to abandon that on Alley Street underneath the creek that's there already?
No, we would, the sewer portion,
The water portion.
the water
So the
portion,
North Alley Street connects to South Alley Street underneath the creek there. right?
yeah, and then come through and
Yes.
connect to
Yeah.
Walnut.
And-
Can we let the bids without knowing the conditions here? How did they bid on it without us telling them which way they're gonna, which,
Well, they've already bid it.
I know, but it sounds like they're two projects with completely different paths that and they're willing to, is this time and materials on most of it or what?
There's two projects, there's base bids for both, but then there's alternates that add on to it.
These are.
So,
these are
Alley,
add-ons.
yep, they're just add-ons. So Alley Street, they plan on doing sewer and water all the way to the end and just dead ending it there. As that alternate would then loop it over the other street there to the west.
Okay.
Or
And
it's
then,
a kind of a completed project rather than just replace what's existing.
Which has been a problem
Right.
for years. I can't imagine us not wanting to move the ball.
Me personally, I would Alley Street base, and the alternate, the loop to Springbrook. And as far as Meadowcraft, the initial loop, but I wouldn't do
the alternate.
the alternate right now. But just me,
So you're saying the first four? 1, 2, 3, 4, and leave this. one.
yeah. And they're pretty inexpensive projects. I imagine that's why a lot of people don't wanna touch them either, but.
$1 million.
Well, in the scope of things, they're not a,
Do they have an estimate on the time frame for these two?
That would be discussed at pre-con for scheduling and stuff.
That would be this year's project, so right, that was the intent.
That was the intent, yes.
Well, why don't I'll make a motion that we accept the first four on here. For Crucic, thank you.
so Nick, the total base bid is the combination of all four of those, right? We're not adding those all together. So we add Alley Street base, Meadowcraft base, Alley Street alternate 1. And those 3 are the total cost.
I think the total base bid is just the two base bids for Meadowcraft and
Yeah.
Alley Street.
Okay.
Alternates are.
So
it's 570, it's not $1 million.
We had an 84.
Only 700,000.
And what size water main you're running off by Meadowcraft?
It was 12, I think.
And 700,000.
I think we're tying into 10, but I think we're running 12.
I can't remember, I know it's gonna be big enough across the south side.
I have a motion to accept
10.
the base bid plus the Alley Street alternate number 1.
You got that?
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So that's gonna include $576,000 in base bid and $94,771 in alternates.
At 76 and then 90%.
We'll take roll call on that.
Alderperson Bob Smith,
Aye.
Alderperson Roger Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Engel.
Aye.
Commissioner Patrick, Commissioner Green,
Aye.
Commissioner Littlefield,
Aye.
Commissioner Busky.
Aye.
Thanks.
Nick, do you need anything else from us on that?
I think that's pretty good. We'll
Contracts
reach
and
out,
things?
Picker check and let them know that's been awarded and.
So let us know if you have any trouble with that easement.
Yep, we'll get on that right away and then look that up prior.
All right, thank you.
Do you need me for anything else or?
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
Those are-
Water report.
All right. Sorry, we'll talk back 2 minutes, no pressure. I thought that's fine. Yeah. We were sent a letter, utility service company that we have for, well contracts. It has switched hands, it's now known as Veolia. again. So this is, we're on like number 3 or 4. We've been in contact with somebody that is a rep and is confident with the changes that are moving forward. Our contracts remain covered by this. They're pulling all our wells in year 10, I think, in total, so.
And where's the rep based?
I know where he lives, I don't know.
Is
He
it in
lives,
Wisconsin?
yeah, he lives in Slinger himself, I know that, I don't know office location, but
Well, that's good news, right?
I,
Sussex, I think he's based on. Right.
yeah, that sounds, yeah, something sounds right. But yeah, he's been pretty active and he's been hunting down our contracts and looking for any historical information for us that we can find, so hopefully it's finally found a home.
This is the same group, only different that we had.
It was utility service company, then Suez, then somebody else, and now Veolia in the last like 2.5 years it's changed.
So now the contract's changes, it's just changing the name and we're.
Just change the name again, they're still bound to our contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the change in name for the corporation that is doing the well work.
I don't think we need a motion there.
Are they gonna pull well for us before they put a building around that? Wouldn't that be ideal? wouldn't it?
So we talked to them about pulling that well at the same time when it's built. He emailed me back, he said, well, there's gonna be a charge for that, for switching that contract. We didn't know what it mattered and they have not gotten back to us with the cost. So.
Bert,
I'll
I
fill
think
that out.
it says with possible action.
No, we're
We're still in water report.
we're in water.
Okay,
Which high is?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I see where you see that down there.
yeah,
There is a little discussion about that. Kind of, it's probably not gonna, we carried that over from last month.
right, but
And
our
they're-
contract we should approve the name change.
So let's do that when we get down to that.
Okay.
All right. In 2021, we obtained some permitting from the DNR for iron filter discharges that we did not have in the past as required. We did 22 months of sampling after getting these, and then we asked for a reduction in our sampling. As of Monday, our request was approved to reduce requirements for pH solids and manganese at all those well locations, so we'll save a little bit on testing there. Monthly? It was monthly, Tim, all of it, yeah.
Any
Every-
change to the mercury and the lead testing or any of those things?
We kind of solved that, so
Okay,
our monitoring is limited now.
Okay,
We
good.
will have another round this year, and that's about it for, I think, the next 3 then. A request for additional funding and principal forgiveness, for our well number 4 project was approved by the DNR. Principal forgiveness, was around 715,000. They will also cover the loan amounts, and principal forgiveness is now 943,000.
That's what he hoped to do and he got it.
Yep, we got it. Yep. Claims been submitted as well for repairs to hydrant hit by a vehicle on Breckenridge Street. Hydrant replacement was completed on Monday.
Was there a mechanical failure that got hit on the vehicle or what? Or was it inattentive driving or?
I don't know that we're sure. Sunlight, maybe?
Well,
Could have, could have been a few things. We're not really sure.
that was a traffic hydrant. Why didn't it snap at the ground line?
Yeah, good question. It moved the base.
Is the orange bag off of it now?
Yeah, it was Monday, it was put back in service. We got it hydrant finally and it was put back in. Our first round of quarterly PFAS testing was sent to the lab. We were waiting results. We should have those probably within the next 2 weeks. 2 more quarters of sampling then after this for the year.
Interestingly enough, I got a piece of email the other day. I was stationed at an Air Force base while I was in the military. That they determined is giving people illness from PFAS.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of like the Camp Lejeune thing, only it's kind of covered a lot of different places.
yeah. Thanks. See what comes out of it, I guess, and where we're at. Tim's confident. And we were granted a second extension for 2022 private LSL funding. They gave us a few months ago, they told us we could keep pulling lead if we found it until I think March 31st of this year, and now they granted an extension till the end of June of 2023 to use up our remaining $150,000.
Has there been any more residents who come in for tests?
No, we found one public service, but we haven't found any more private.
What are the odds that we'll find any more, do you? Are there more out there, you think, or?
I'm sure, it's something we can't see, as far as what we can get our eyes on, I feel pretty confident that we saw everything we could get our eyes on. I mean, we've seen a lot that are patched together under the underground.
You're gonna see more splices.
Yeah, and that, we have no way of knowing. But they got a couple months to get them
Those
in.
you'll find with, if people come in for a test, and you know what I mean, if you can get them to do it.
Not yes and no, because there's so many, there's, lead components could be underground, you won't know if it's
Solder,
coming
lead
from
solder.
downstream or,
But it's a good play, you might find one that somebody says, oh, I got a lot of lead, I don't know why.
and it could be from their internal plumbing as well. So we wouldn't
That's what I meant.
necessarily know. Any questions on water? I'll get to that.
I seen there was an excavation on Breckenridge Street. East of Breckenridge and Grove, was that anything to do with the utility or was that Public Works?
Oh, yeah,
There's a cutout in the road
there,
there.
there was a manhole there
Okay,
and there was a valve in there, but it must, we deemed it abandoned.
It's an abandoned.
There was an abandoned storm sewer in there and the manhole was sinking, so instead of rebuilding the manhole,
Right.
build it in, patched it, covered
okay, yeah, there used to be two mains on that street.
So we didn't know what, we deemed it abandonable. So
It's one that a lot of drivers complain that they go kerplunk on.
It's gonna fix it.
I just noticed where there's something going on here and I thought I'd ask.
Yep, yeah, there's a few of them around town, you'll see that are pink that will either put a little riser on and take care of some of the plowing issues and stuff going up here too.
You guys been marking all this stuff for those people running all this tunneling and boring around the new library? Have you
Yep.
been making sure it's small?
Yep.
Run into anything?
Sure are.
Well,
Wastewater,
next is wastewater report.
all right, annual mercury progress report, report number 4 was approved by the DNR. We have one more year before our limit lowers. They excluded the 89 effluent concentration that we had in December, they threw it out nicely enough. And they say there's every indication that we'll be able to make our new limit without a variance on a regular basis. So that's due, March of 24, we'll be seeing a reduction from 4.5 to 1 in our mercury limit. Just before permit time. The city is approved as a CDL training location. Potential CDL drivers take an online theory class, train with a city employee who has a CDL. So they'll fulfill their EDLT requirements, and then they test as usual as a certified location. So it saves us time, saves us money. Otherwise, we'd be sending new drivers off for a couple weeks worth of class.
Anybody come in?
Well, we could, we listed our location as private because I don't know of anybody that has, the time to dedicate to constantly training employees. So Jack has one employee that is going through it, and then we have one as well, and then they'll both have CDLs, so we'll be good.
So it's basically just like a learner's permit is gonna go with.
Yeah, anyone, so, and everybody else has CDL, so any of us can train with them or.
Seems like a heck of a lot of
Remember the
street.
required hours before the.
They require certain training, but they don't mandate the hours at all. So as long as you know all of the material that they hand you, which is a big booklet, they don't give you a time frame and when you have to learn it. But
Do they have to like go over to Beaver Dam for the driving test and stuff?
yeah, we use this Jake CDL. This woman comes from somewhere up north and meets them in Beaver Dam and goes for a spin and deems them pass or fail.
Okay.
So yeah, last year we do that. We took delivery, if you've seen it around town, new vehicle for sewer side. It's a 2023 Dodge Ram 1500. Looks a little different than the rest of our fleet. You didn't see it yet?
It doesn't have any rust holes inside or
No.
No, not yet.
No.
Yeah, I know pretty good, so I don't recognize it.
Yeah.
It's
That's
white. It's
probably-
white. You gotta keep it
Oh, it's
clean.
white.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, no, I know.
We wrote the molded in white in a Dodge Ram, so we.
What is
Made
that?
it orange to match.
What is that replacing?
The 1999 Dodge Caravan.
One that
And
used
did
to
that
run back.
different city department take ownership of this or where is?
Of the caravan,
Yeah.
it's still there, we're gonna we have to offer it up to other departments. I know there is actually some interest in it. We just want to make sure it's actually safe because we're not so sure of that at this point.
Well, I'd say whoever gets it, it's their concern to make it safe. But
That's true. Just as long as they don't roll on the river on the way out or anything. We had a TFO treatment facility overflow occur on April 1st. This occurred at the point MSA identified as the choke point at our plant where they call it Norb's bar screen, and then it from aeration to the bar screen. So
How'd you come up with 600 gallons?
it wasn't much trickling over. It's hard to judge on those. I don't know, Mike Kelly was there for it, so we had him kind of make the call. It was a slow trickle over the very outer edge of the aeration where the concrete meets the cover. So it was
That
flowing
basically
through.
just soaked into the ground.
Yeah, it went right to the ground.
River, right?
Nope.
is
Nope.
that a really rainy day or something?
Yeah, we had extremely high flows. I don't remember the rainfall totals that day, but
I
it was,
think you had a massive snow melt, wasn't that?
the ground was already saturated for days before. It was April 1st, so the night before, it was good April Fool's joke for us. The night before was when those thunderstorms and tornadoes and all that stuff.
So you still have to report that even though it didn't go into the river.
Yep. Yep, so even if it overflows it's a little different reporting, instead of that sanitary system overflow, it's a treatment facility overflow. I don't have no idea how you estimate that, but yeah, we're like slow trickle, a couple hours, do some strange math and call
Put
it
a
a day.
meter on that.
Yeah, all the way around the outer ledge. In your packet there's a quote for last page for hauling services. So we looked and we talked a while back about quoting out, who else does hauling services. We are addressing the storage issue, but in the meantime, I got the most ridiculous quote. It is, I had to read it a few times. From Clean Harbors there. So the quote total is $82,239.90. And that is per week.
Per week?
For what?
Per week. Per week, yeah.
Where is this company out of?
They are in Green Bay area.
Green Bay?
So what I found out is that these trucking, these hauling companies, they all have their regions essentially. Badger, we're in their region. They don't compete against each other necessarily. They stick to their regions. Clean Harbors is one of the only ones, they're a big commercial company that will compete. So to have Clean Harbors haul, it's about 3 times their annual budget for sludge hauling. So right now we're at about 210 to 218,000 annually. This, I believe, if I did the math, if I remember the math was $4.2 million.
And so why would we want to consider this? Fit?
I got the information. There's a quote. Definitely don't want to consider that, but just I checked on it. It's done. It's ugly, but it's done.
Well, that's what's so bad, or doesn't see that on.
Right. We had to read that a few times. I'm in the wrong business. Mercury letters were sent to industries on pre-treatment programs. For last month's meeting, we'll be sampling and billing twice in 2023. Green Bay Drive repair photos are handed out as well. If anybody does want to see those more, the copies are fantastic. I have video as well, if you want to see what the repairs actually look like at those 90s. They didn't copy it for a while at all, but.
Can you email that?
Yeah, that would probably work a little better. I probably can with the video, or if it doesn't fit, I can put it on a thumb drive. So,
They fuse that or how did?
yeah, it's kind of a liner, it like sticks to the wall and then it's almost like
Then
an
they put a
epoxy.
bone in there.
Yeah, you'll see it on that.
Were you home when they did yours?
Yeah. Mhm.
Now, we did camera all the ones,
That before and after.
did we camera these 4 that we fixed privately prior to?
Yeah, and one of them that actually had a reimbursement that had previously fixed his lateral, he had an issue at the 90. And then we also found an additional issue at the Y and we fixed the Y for them.
Okay.
So that one's a 50-50. There was one known issue and then we found another, so. Is what it is. We'll see. But yeah, I can get photos, video, emails, probably gonna show up a little better. Last item on the list, I promise, kind of goes between both utilities here. So what I keep getting asked, right? So I'm losing my voice, I sound terrible, but it's okay. I just wanted to recap some of the things in the last couple of years that we kind of probably forgot that we've completed. We've eliminated temperature limits, reduced sampling frequencies, repaired Green Bay Drive issues and issues with associated with previous sewer lateral ordinance and reconstruction drainage. We rebuilt 2 clarifiers, removed fluoride, avoided corrosion control studies and chemical addition, added additional testing methods and clients, created a structured pay scale, implemented benefits common to other municipalities. We're working to reconstruct a well house as well as a treatment facility. Introduce proper cross-contamination control programs. Became a CDL training facility, reduced paper billings, added ACH customers, provided insurance options. Caught up on meter changes post-COVID, that one was rough. Reconstructed a street, completed trenchless repairs for over 2,000 feet of sewer system. We'll complete a loop shortly. Repair weak infrastructure, keep the business open and keep Alley Street in business since we don't have anything to fix it if it would break. We'll complete televising of the entire sewer system this summer, identify where future repairs will make the largest impact. We've implemented and designed a comprehensive GIS system. And of course, removed, nobody knows that, right? All the known private and public lead. So we did a lot in the last few years. If all of these guys weren't here and if you guys weren't here saying yes to all that, we wouldn't have got any of this done. So this works pretty
Sewer and
well.
Water or just sewer?
It's a combination.
You put in there that we eliminated, chlorinating the water?
Yep. Well,
Fluoride. Fluoride,
Chlorinating, oh, you did.
Yep. So,
Sorry.
last week, so this kind of all came together into this, but employees are all are definitely part of this, but none of these guys ever say no to anything, and it's a little nuts sometimes what I ask them to do, so they won't deny that. So last week I went to Wisconsin Rural Water Conference. And I was a little surprised because we came home, you guys can pass it around, with the water system of the year from Wisconsin Rural Water.
I would say, well.
So none of that would have happened. All of these guys were here and if everybody said yes to all the stuff that we had going on. I will note that I have no idea what he said when I walked up there. This Frank Winters from the Packers, the center, just got done speaking. And all I could think was, don't trip, don't trip, don't trip. And I have no idea what he said up there, so. I don't know. They do have a picture because they make you hold the plaque. So I'm pretty sure it just looks like completely stone-eyed and like.
I think they probably need to have a press release, but you need to get a hold of it, and we need to share that.
Yeah.
We need to really.
And, yeah.
Citizens reporter or wildlife repeater, Mabel Schnews.
I was like,
County Pioneer.
I don't know. Put that in.
Boy, we really, yeah, that's a good idea. They might have a press release already made up, they still.
That would be rural water.
You're gonna wanna get whatever they said, you know, at least, to share that.
Okay. Yeah, it went in blank entirely.
I'm sure they said lots of nice things about our utility and,
I might have to ask somebody, I don't.
and that's fine.
Mike, do you know, we've ever gotten this before?
No.
No?
Who nominated you, do you know, or usually you have to be nominated to get that?
We were, I'm not exactly sure, but all of it came from, the people that we work with at Wisconsin Rural Water all came and found us right away and, yeah, Annie, Andrew and, Jesse, you know, we work pretty closely with.
From roll.
Yeah,
You need to be crappy about that.
yeah, for sure. And,
Get them all cleaned up.
get them all cleaned up, orange sweatshirts and all, make a match that thing, all right.
I think that's the same color.
No, I don't think you bring up.
Wear a new sweatshirt.
Oh, yeah, the one was the water taste test.
That's what I was saying. I
Water
remember
taste
that.
test.
It's test.
Congratulations.
That was a big award.
That's everybody.
That's everybody's, yeah. So I'm pretty sure they were talking about the lead program with this one. I might have to.
Yeah,
confirm.
Well,
That's the second biggest accomplishment you had.
That's a piece of it.
In there, the first biggest was all the lead stuff you got in first and got all that lead remediation done.
And that's huge.
That's probably what led to this.
Yeah,
But you also need to take credit for all the other stuff that happened when you're
Yeah,
talking.
you had
about
that picture of you with the big pile of lead there. and that guy was some-
that's kind of a famous picture at this point with the town and country crew and.
What happened to the lead? Is that still up by the plant?
No, they turned it recycled. They made money on that.
That's allowed you to buy that new truck?
No,
Tennis ball.
not us, no, we didn't have a, I don't know, when you deal with federal or money coming down through the state, hands off, we don't want anything to do with it, but, yeah, so that's pretty cool. We'll have to find a nice shiny place to hang this up, and
I think it should be at City Hall, like right up there.
I don't think that's a bad idea to put it at City Hall and kind of.
Yeah, put it right next to Mayor of the Year award.
Yeah.
Is that you? We have one more thing on the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Discussion possible action regarding regalia. So this is where we need to approve that.
Well, we tabled it from last month, so this was one that they didn't provide any additional information, and they still didn't provide any additional information.
But we're approving just the name change.
The name change.
Do we need to approve the name? It's gonna be that name whether we approve it or not.
Yeah.
Right, but we should have it on the record that we're aware that they changed their corporate.
So we motion by Bob Smith,
Yes.
to approve that, second by Gino.
Talk about it.
Any further discussion?
Our contract remains the same, exactly the same as it
We
is.
hope. We'll take a roll call on that.
You, you motioned out of that one. I was gonna say, I don't need to carry this over. I don't think we're gonna get any additional information from them. They really don't wanna provide for our contract as it is, and we're just in it.
So we're just voting on that. We're aware of the name change.
Okay.
Right, that's right.
I'll record.
Gotta take the roll.
Take roll call on that.
Alderperson Bob Smith,
Aye.
Alderperson Roger Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Patrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank,
Aye.
Commissioner Loto,
Aye.
Commissioner Bushki.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting, May 2nd, 4 P.M., City Hall.
Say, Roger, are you in on Zoom?
I am.
You know that you don't have to automatically, or you don't have to do the mouse click to unmute. You can just do it by pressing your space bar.
I didn't know I was muted.
Okay, maybe you weren't. I know last night you struggled with it. I just thought I'd mention it today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. I got to be pretty familiar with Zoom over the
Last couple of years.
plague.